If your work has slowed down this year, like basically every single designer out there, you're probably thinking about doing that one thing that we all do when that happens, and that is rebuilding your portfolio site. Let's be honest, we all think it, and I did it this year. I tore the whole thing down and rebuilt it because I went from closing 60% of my leads in 2024 to less than 20 in 2026. And the truth is, it wasn't my portfolio. You see, fewer people are reaching out, and the ones who are kicking tires instead of lighting fires. Every instinct that you have says that the problem is your work. Let's be honest, we all think that. And the truth is, it isn't. And I can tell you this because I spent 9 months proving that the hard way. So stick around and you'll know exactly why your pipeline slowed down and what you can do this week instead of redesigning your portfolio site again. But quick thing before I do any of that, before I say anything, so you know why I even know all of this. I've been a brand designer for over 20 years. I built a studio up to 5 designers, lost most of it, and rebuilt it as a one-person shop. So most of what I talk about here, I learned the expensive way. And I have run my studio now through 2 economic downturns, so there is that. But without further ado, let's start with the thing you're about to do. The thing that we all do in these uncertainties. When work slows down, every single designer, regardless of what vertical you're in, whether you're a branding designer, web designer, illustrator, whatever, reaches for the exact same lever. They rebuild their website. They redesign their case studies, add more case studies. They rewrite their about page, their process page, and while they're at it, they even add a brand new headshot. It feels productive, and that's the trap. It feels like you're finally doing something about the problem, and I know this because I went all the way. I went all the way by burning the midnight oil night after night for 2 weeks on end, digging through my own work, trying to figure out what the heck was wrong with it. And the truth is, I rebuilt the whole thing just to make it more eye-catching, more digestible, more clickable, more benefit heavy, whatever you want to call it. And honestly, did it make any difference? None whatsoever. Then I started talking to other designers, freelancers, studio owners, agencies, and I got the same numbers back from people who I really admired, that they were going through the exact same thing. Now, if it were my portfolio or your portfolio, it wouldn't have happened to everybody at the same exact time, would it? No, it wouldn't. Here's what took me way too long to kind of see. A portfolio answers exactly one question. Are you good enough? And that was never the question. Maybe 20% of it on a bad day, let's be honest, but the other 80% is somewhere else entirely. They're not unsure, and when I say they, I'm talking about clients, they're not unsure about you, they're unsure about right now. So what are they actually unsure about? They're unsure about whether they can afford it, whether the economy is about to do something weird and crazy like it's been doing the last couple of years, whether this is the thing to spend on when 3 other line items are kind of like fighting for the same money, whether they'll ever see a return on it, whether they'll see an ROI. And here's the thing about uncertainty. When people aren't sure, they don't decide against you. They just don't decide. They don't make a decision. They put it off. They procrastinate. I'm guilty of it. I know probably some of you are too. So they do nothing. And doing nothing shows up in 3 completely different places, which is why this feels like 3 separate problems. The first one is, somebody who needs this work right now has no idea that you even exist. That's right. They have no idea. Or they knew about you 2 years ago and they haven't thought about you since. You're not competing with another designer there. You're just competing with the fact that you're not in the room. The next one is, with referral partners. And this is the one that gets missed because most of our work comes through referrals. Ask any freelancer, any agency. So when someone asks a referral partner, who they recommend, 3 names might come to mind. And unfortunately, you're not one of them. Not because they don't rate you as being like the expert in your field, but because they haven't seen you lately. You're not top of mind. Other people are coming to mind, but not you. And I'll be honest, this is the one I've struggled with most of my career. Consistency has never come naturally to me. And every time I do go quiet, this is what happens. And then the last one here, the ones who do reach out, the clients, the leads, the referral partners who do reach out and then basically are kind of kicking tires, they're not sure about timing. They're not sure about the money. They're considering whether or not that they should just try the AI version first and see if it gives them the jump start that they need. You see, decisions that used to take a couple of weeks now sometimes can take a couple of quarters or even a year or more. Now, here's the part that messes with your head, or especially my head. You only ever see those, yeah, sorry, you only ever see one of those. You see a deal go quiet. You never see the email that they didn't send or they just put in their drafts or the referral that got made to somebody else. So it looks like a closing problem, and you go work on your pitch, work on, some sort of language in your proposals or something like that, or you go update your LinkedIn profile, or it looks like a portfolio problem, which we're talking about here, and you go rebuild your site for the 50 billionth time, which I did that one, you know. Or it looks like a networking problem. And so you message 50 people asking if they need any design help right now, which is the fastest way to basically get known as or remembered as the person who was desperate that one time. And I've been guilty of that. In fact, I actually did that back in December. So I know what I'm talking about here. And I feel like a lot of you out there probably have done the exact same thing. The truth is, it's none of those. It's really just one problem showing up in three separate places. So nobody stopped needing this work, right? They stopped being sure about it. And they stopped remembering who you are. So if the problem is certainty and being top of mind, everything you do next should be aimed at those two things. It's not about looking more impressive. Instead, it's about being easier to say yes to and easier to remember. So let's start with the yes, because most of us make this harder than it needs to be. We sell this big thing, this full sprint, this whole identity, one offer, one number, one enormous decision that is so hard for our clients to make. And we're asking people to make that decision at the exact moment they're least willing to commit to anything. So stop sending just one price, one big, giant, hairy offer. Instead, send three. Think of it like this way: an economic option, a standard option, and a premium option, or a premium one. Real, complete work at every single level, not just like a stripped down version of like the good one, but something a little bit more than that. Built so somebody can step from the first tier into the second and from the second into the third over time. That does two things at once. It shrinks that first yes down to something a nervous buyer can actually say. And it shows them everything that you're capable of doing without you having to kind of pitch yourself. And the second time around, you're not a risky decision anymore. Think about this. Every time you have a client, the second time that they come to you, they already know what you're going to be like on a random Tuesday, right? Now it's just a question of, are you available and what does it cost? Now, the other half of this is, do not price yourself out of work right now. We are in an economic downturn, and a lot of us are still pricing like we're in a feast cycle. That doesn't really hold up now. Sometimes it means, taking on smaller work than you're used to, and that's completely fine. You don't have to follow the advice of certain big name people, gurus on YouTube who are telling you to charge $10,000 for a logo. A couple months ago, I took on several small projects, all priced well below what I normally call my minimum level of engagement. And on their own, none of them were exciting. I'll be completely honest. None of them were exciting. None of them were super creative. But stacked together, they got me meaningfully words, they got me meaningfully closer to what I needed for that month financially. So if you're a branding designer, that might be, a small graphic design job. If you're a web designer, that might be taking on ad work. Whatever your version of that is, it counts. And here's why that matters more than money. Desperation is a risk signal. Clients can smell it. You cannot be the low risk choice while you're visibly hoping this one closes, this one project closes. So, 3 things that you can do this week, and none of them is redesigning your portfolio, is one, get into the rhythm of posting. Post on LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever your people are, wherever your referrals come from, your clients come from. And I want to be clear about this one for you. You're not going to land a project from any individual post. Completely push that out of your mind. That's not the point. The point is being visible to people who might hire you and the people who might refer you. 3 to 5 times a week, same days every single week. So it's a rhythm and not really a mood or a vibe. And then not finally, I don't know why I said finally. And number 2, start having conversations. And not just with potential clients. I'm not saying go cold call or cold DM people. Talk to other designers, other freelancers, studio owners, people in adjacent trades to you. If you're a brand designer, go talk to web designers and product designers. Do not open with, I'm looking for work. Instead, open with just having a conversation, be a human being with them. Number 3, rework your proposal. Give them their 3 options instead of the one price. Keep it simple. Don't over design it. Please, for the love of God, do not over design it. It does not need to be over designed. It could be a simple Google Doc with just text in it and maybe a couple of tables or something like that. And record a Loom walking them through it, walking through the potential client through the actual proposal so they can hear you explain the thinking and get them on a call as soon as you can after you send that proposal. The thing that makes all 3 work is consistency. Posting just once a week does nothing. Having one conversation does nothing. Doing all 3 every single week for a couple of months is the actual thing that moves the needle. So your work isn't the problem. Be visible, be easy to say yes to, and stop needing any single deal badly enough that they can feel it, that your potential clients can feel it. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully my rambling did not go too crazy. If you liked what you saw, please hit that like button. If you have any questions, comment down below. And please remember to hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. I'm going to be trying to put out a lot more content now. I've got this kind of like dialed in and everything. So really excited to start putting out more stuff. So hope you guys have a great day and I will catch you later. Bye.